Here's Paddy Power's latest horse racing offer. It's money back as a free bet if your horse finishes second to the SP Fav in all races at one meeting today. And at one meeting every day this month. Max £25 per race. Not available in shops. 18 plus. Gambleaware.co.uk.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Laurie. James Hill on the sofa with me. We've got Frank Hickey and Paul Keeley on the phone. We're going to look ahead to Sunday's action, and we're starting off with the big one at Aintree, the 3 o'clock, the Monet's Garden Old Roan Chase. And Frank, how's the betting looking for this one?
Yeah, Cloudy Dream is 4-1 favourite. God's Own 5-1. T for 2 and Shantou Village are 6-1. Bovril 8-1. Excuse me. And we're 12-1 bar.
Yeah, great to see some of the big names out in action over jumps again. Starting with you, Frank. Then, who's your idea of the winner in this one?
Yeah, it's very difficult to know who's going to be ready to rock for this and who's not. But you can be sure third intention probably been aimed at this. He won the race last year off the exact same mark. This might just be a little bit of a better renewal of the race though than last year. I think Shantou Village has the potential to rate a bit higher than 148. I think he's running off here. He only won a neck at Sandown. He appeared to be just holding on, but I think there's far more to come. He jumps okay. I know he fell at Wincanton last season, but his record is actually unbelievably solid. He's won, I think he's only been beaten 3 times ever. I think at 6-1, I'd nearly take a chance. I'd back him each way in. I think he'll be in the 3. I think he'll be wound up to go well, because I think they want to run. I think they'll be looking at winning a handicap like this and then maybe progressing on to running in graded chases later on in the year. So I don't think they'll be protecting a mark or anything like that. So I think he'll give his running. Hopefully he'll be good enough to win. But it is it's a really competitive renewal this year.
Yeah, really, really tricky race. Paul, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's really tricky. I wouldn't be backing anything at 4-1 as much as I like Cloudy Dream. One I like near the bottom of the weights is Ballybolly, who is as fit as a flea compared to some of these, because he's been running a fair bit. I thought his improvement might have come to an end after he'd won the Challenger Series final at Haydock for the second year in a row. He absolutely bolted up that day at Haydock. But he has actually come on again, and he won a listed chase at Market Rasen last month pretty well off a mark of 143. He's up £6 more. When you look at his form, he loves a flat track. So, I think this course is going to suit him. He's got wins at Haydock, Huntingdon, Wetherby, etc. And, of course, at Aintree, won the Grade 2 bumper at the Grand National meeting in April 2014. Also won a novice hurdle there as well. And in his 2 chase outings at the track in the past have been in graded races where he was out of his depth but didn't run badly. I think around about, he's 20-1 in places. I think that looks a fair each way bet to me.
Yeah, 20-1 with Paddy Power, Ballybolly. Anything at a big price for you, or are you looking towards the top of the market, James?
I think this is potentially a fiercely competitive race. I agree with Frank, really, in that Shantou Village, I think he's probably the best handicapped horse in the race. He might lack a bit of experience compared to some of these, but if you go back to his hurdles form, he was second to Yanworth. He won a couple of graded hurdles very impressively as well. His career went a bit flat after he disappointed in the Albert Bartlett, but he seemed to get back on track at Sandown last spring. He tends to go well at this time of year, so if he's fit enough and if he jumps well enough, I think he's got to have a good chance.
Okay, fantastic. Looking at the rest of Sunday's action, Paul, we'll start with you. Anything you're particularly looking forward to on Sunday?
I wouldn't say particularly. I mean, Aintree, you get a little bit of soft ground, get soft in the description, suddenly you get very competitive races. And I was looking at the fields come up on the website, and I assumed we were still looking at the 5 days, but we're not. It's like 16 runner after 16 runner. Obviously, there's a Veterans Chase at 150. I thought Potter's Cross ran well a couple of weeks ago, went 5th to Bob Ford at Chepstow. I think he'd go well in that. And still fairly interested that 3 Musketeers for Dan Skelton in the 225 is staying over hurdles. He was rated 155, I think it was, at his peak over fences a couple of seasons ago, still up to that sort of level last year. Fairly close 6 to Pilgrim's Bay and what used to be the Racing Post Chase at Kempton. And has run over hurdles in a Grade 1 at the end of last year, and then made no real show at Chepstow a couple of weeks ago. But he's always come on an absolute ton for his first run, and he got dropped £3 for that. So he's off 142 over hurdles. I think it might be a mark that he can take advantage of at some point. And unlike a lot of Dan Skelton's horses, he might actually be a fair price.
Fantastic. So that's Aintree marked cards from Paul. Looking at the rest of Sunday's action, James, anything for you? There's a couple of Group 1s in France or anything catching your eye?
Well, happily, I think we'd probably have to have a good chance in France, wouldn't you? I mean, I'd agree with Keels, what he was just saying about Three Musketeers at Aintree. I quite fancied his chances at Chepstow until I saw his record fresh, which first time out, which wasn't great. So I'm expecting a better performance this time, and on his very best chase form. I mean, he's chucked it, isn't he? He's got a great chance.
Yep, that's Three Musketeers then in the 225 at Aintree for James. And for Frank on Sunday, anything else aside from the old Roan chase that's standing out for you?
Yeah, in the 1240, it was a novice hurdler, it's a maiden hurdle. Two potentially really nice types on the blind side for Nicky Henderson and Global Citizen of John Joe Neals. Now, John Joe's actually made a really good start to the season, which is unusual for him. He's normally more, a slow starter who kind of picks up form as you get towards the spring festivals. But his Global Citizen ran, now was a farcical Worcester bumper in that I think there was about 12 non-runners due to the fast ground. But this horse cost 270,000 sterling after winning his point. And he beat a horse that day that had finished second. A horse called Hatab finished second in a Musselburgh bumper, I think, on debut. Had been off track a little bit, that Hatab, but he ran really well in Musselburgh, and Global Citizen absolutely kicked him out of the way at Worcester. I think he's a really nice type, and I think he might go well in that race. Also, the 225, it's worth keeping an eye on Ballyalton, not with regard to winning that race, but more, I think that might be a little spin before the Bet Victor Gold Cup. He's been off the track for a while. But I had a sneaky feeling for one, called Sneaky Feeling. I thought I'd bring a bit of cheese in, but now that David Jennings isn't around for a couple of weeks. But he disappointed the Neptune trial at Cheltenham last January behind Holdstone. But he won at Newbury, beating Baggs Grove before that. And after that, he won at Sandown, hammering a decent one. That one probably ran below form. But I'd say what kind of steered me towards was Tim Vaughan has one in there called the Lingy, who's actually quite consistent and is a nice type. And Richard Johnson's has jumped off him to get on this Sneaky Feeling, which suggests he's probably well handicapped off 135. Like he's really only exposed, only had 4 or 5 runs ever. So I think he might go well. And then 335. Yeah, it's another good handicap chase over 3 miles too. 3 miles and a furlong. But I thought Vintage Clouds for Sue Smith. Like his form figures, there's a few falls in there recently, but he was going well enough at Cheltenham. He was only 4 lengths down when falling 2 out. He wouldn't have won or anything, but he would have been in the first 6 or 7. And like he finished place in the Grand National Trial at Haydock as well on heavy ground. I think he's well handicapped off 132. I think he can go well. This probably isn't anywhere near as strong a race as he has been running in. And in Galway then, I have a couple. The 105 Midnight Stroll, he was second in that valuable bumper at Newbury last year behind Bullionaire, who looks a really nice type. And he went to Punchestown then, ran a decent bumper behind one, a JP one from England, I can't remember the name now, and Next Destination was just ahead of him. He made his hurdles debut there about a month ago, but I would say he wasn't really fully wound up for that. He's one I wouldn't be backing first thing when the prices go up, but if he's strong in the market, I think he'd take a fair bit of beating. And just one to look at in the 250 at Galway, Lucky Pass was a bumper winner for Willie Mullins in 2015 at Leopardstown, where he beat First Figaro and Jack the Wire. He hasn't been seen since, but he had a bit of a big reputation. He went off 4-7 that day. He's now with Gordon Elliott, but he's well worth keeping an eye on. If he retains stability, he can make up into a useful hurdler this year.
And so of all those you've listed there, Frank, which one are you going to be having the biggest bet on?
Probably Global Citizen.
Global Citizen at Aintree. Okay, well, many thanks, guys. Paul's going to be making his way up to Doncaster shortly. Frank's going to be getting his bets on. James and I are going to be back in the office working away. We'll be back on Monday. Maddie and the gang will be looking back at the action and ahead to next weekend. If you do like these podcasts, do rate and subscribe us on iTunes. We'll see you all again soon.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty!